Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another Mainstream Monday here on Horror Film Lovers. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got my co-host here, John Ward. How you doing, John?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, and we've got a special guest here for this episode, we're really excited about this. Jeffrey Reddick is here. How you doing, Jeffrey?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Do you prefer Jeff or Jeffrey?
You know what? I like Jeffrey. It makes me, feel young and reminds me of when my mom would yell at me, when I did something bad. It was never Jeff when I did something bad. It was always Jeffrey.
I think I asked you that before. I think you gave me that response. So, okay.
Yeah.
That sounded very familiar. All right. Great. Well, Jeffrey, welcome. So you are the creator, basically, of the Final Destination franchise. And so we're always happy to have you here. We did 1 through 4. This is 5, obviously. So we've talked about that, and we've had lots of discussion on the series, period, like our thoughts and our stuff. So first question I have to ask is, what is your favorite death in all of the franchise, period?
It's funny because there's a couple, but I think it's hard. The bus scene is obviously iconic, which I love that. But since I've been so involved in, the projects and even knowing kind of what's going on with the sequels, like the death that made me actually jump and scream in a test screening, which hadn't happened before, was the gymnastics scene in part 5. So I've got to say, like, I actually really love part 5. I kind of, I think it's a perfect. You could tell it was made for the fans. Like they had they had a lot of time. They didn't have time with part 4 to work on it as much. And this isn't to talk, poorly of it. It's just they had to rush it into production because of the writer's strike. So they didn't get a chance to really spend the time on the script that they would have spent with all the other films. And so, they called it The Final Destination, which of course made horror fans think, oh, this must be like the final chapter where they're going to reveal all the answers and do some stuff. And then when it turned out that it was, another sequel, it did really well, but the fans were kind of like, Gurf, So with part 5, they really, I think they really took the time to make part 5 really for the fans. I think that's why we have a lot more Tony Todd in it. I feel like the characters are strong, and it just felt like they spent a lot of time, and obviously with the way that it kind of wraps into the rest of the films, it's just brilliant, in my opinion. I hate to say brilliant. I didn't write it, so I can say brilliant.
Oh, well, that's interesting because John was saying that. I think, did you read, John, that it was, because you said it felt like the Final Destination felt a little rushed, like that they...
Oh, my thing was that because I've seen everyone in the theater, and then I own the collection, and I've loved everyone. It's basically this and Chucky, I think, are the only series that are constant with every single movie being good. I liked all of them.
Yes.
But then when I rewatched part 4, I'm like, why is there no Tony Todd? And why are they only mentioning one of the movies? And why is this only 80 minutes? Is this like when Hellraiser or Children of the Corn, when like the rights were going up, and then like Dimension would be like, no, go film one. We can't lose the rights. And that's almost what I kind of felt like, is like, why is this so different?
Yeah, it wasn't. Other ones? Yeah, it wasn't because they were trying to just rush another one out. It was just because of the writer's strike coming up. They had planned on doing another one, and they had to get the script written really fast. And I think that they did especially considering the super time crunch they were under. I think they did, a good job of making a fun Final Destination movie. I just know they would have had even the writers would have liked to have had more time to work on just more time to develop the script and not have to get it out so quickly.
It's solid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part 4 is, I mean, they don't waste any time getting to that accident, at the race car track.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing I will say. And I do like the movie.
It's a really fun movie. I think it was just when they called it The Final Destination as well. Like, in horror, in horror speak, that's usually, oh, we're going to kind of wrap some stuff up. This is
Or
going to be the last one, maybe. So,
well, like I think final chapter in Friday the 13th, the guy who wrote it and everything wanted that to be the final chapter. Like he
yeah.
was planning this to be the end. So I think that's what we thought. And I don't know, was there a reason they called it the Final Destination?
No, I don't think so. I think it was, better than just four. you know?
Well, yeah, a lot of films stopped using numbers, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it just be Final Destination Returns,
Yeah.
something like that. They just stopped with
Halloween
numbers.
Kills, all right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's well, God, wouldn't that be confusing? I mean, how many part twos do we need? How many part threes do we need?
Yeah.
it's true. But
I
at
mean,
least this hasn't really been remade yet or anything, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping it doesn't get that. I'm hoping it.
I
doesn't.
don't want a remake. I just want them to continue because of what you're saying. Each film, in a way, can be the last one. And then because there's nothing that really makes it like a sequel. So you can do roller coaster, you can do plane, you can do
Yeah.
race car. Not so you could still do boat. You could still
Yeah.
do you could do Final Destination in space and have them, on a space station. And it blows up and they escape in a
Yeah.
in like a little shuttle or something, like an escape pod.
Yeah, there's so much they can do with it, and I feel like, I mean, there is a sixth one in the works, which has been announced, so it's no secret. It's going to be on HBO Max. It's just there's been a lot of turnaround with Warner Brothers getting acquired, and HBO Max getting acquired. So they're still working on the script for that. Every time I mean, again, this is all over. It's been announced by the studio, I think, too. So every time I mention it on a podcast, people will start going, "When's it coming out?" It's like, no, it's still at the script phase, but it is moving forward. So I'm really excited about that. And it's also one of those sequels where I think it can bring back some legacy characters. The last couple have been. I always get in this discussion. The last couple have been everybody dies at the end, but that's never been canon for the film. I mean, we obviously with part two, there were surviving characters at the end of part two, and they only got killed in the DVD extras on part three if you read those. So unless you watch the DVD extras, they're still alive.
So I read that. I actually read that, and I told John this on. I think it was on one of them.
I don't accept it. I don't accept it. I just don't. I'm sorry. How did two people fall into wood chippers?
Oh yeah, no, that was
I don't accept it.
Yeah, and I don't. I think some of that is like tongue in cheek, but it's for me. I never wanted the movies to be. You can't cheat death, and by the end of the movie, everybody's going to die. Because for me, then why watch the films? If you just know everybody's going to die at the end anyway, there's no purpose. It was always like you can't cheat death, but if you are smart enough, you can outwit it and live longer. You can prolong your life, and that was kind of the message that we had with part one and part two. And I think even with part three is the one that started again. Killing everybody at the end, but then they went that extra step on the DVD extras and put in there, the survivors of part two, died in a ridiculous way. So it's still not film canon. So hopefully, as we move forward, we can kind of get away from that trope that everybody's just going to die at the end, because otherwise, it's like no fun to watch a movie if you just know everyone's going to die.
Exactly, and I liked part 5 because it introduced a new idea of like, if you kill somebody, you get their lives, or whatever, which I thought was funny because you don't know how much life that person has left, or whatever. And that even got explored. And I thought, wow, this is really like really good, like this is well done. And everybody in this one looked like they had a lot of fun. Miles Fisher, who is famous, super famous now for looking very much like Tom Cruise. So Tom Cruise look-alike or whatever. He was in a
Yeah.
Paris Hilton TikTok or something, you know, and he was also a singer. I showed John the I don't know if you've seen that music video they did for Final Destination where it was
Oh
like
yeah.
Saved by the Bell and everything. I thought that was really
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah. He's
Um,
very funny.
yeah, and so I liked that. And I liked, and it was had a lot of comedy because it had fucking PJ Byrne in the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is not your typical horror film because I don't accept it was a David Ketchner in The Office, you know, in another paper company, you know? Like it
Yeah.
was obviously tongue in cheek of like that kind of stuff and I really enjoyed this one. So
Yeah.
and I know you didn't do it. I do have one, you know, a couple questions that I think I've asked you before in the emails or whatever, but one of the questions is who is Tony Todd? Like to this universe? Is he just a more guy? Does he knows more information than
He knows stuff. I think that will either be a question answered at some further date or not answered.
Not
because
answered. Not answered.
because the thing that's great about him, and in my original draft of the story, that character was someone who had been through what Alex had been through. So he was kind of the guy who, you need in the horror story somebody who kind of knows what's going on, and so he was the one who kind of was tracking these kids down, and they thought he was some psycho until they thought he was after them until he was like, no, this happened to me. But that morphed into the Mortician character in the final version, and I actually love what James and Glenn did with him, where they made him more somebody who's really close to death, so seems to have answers. The funny thing about my cat is I'm waiting for him to pounce on me. So I don't trust him in the back.
I can see him thinking
Flirting
about it.
around. I don't trust him. He's going to jump on me at some point.
Yeah.
But I like that they've made him somebody who's kind of always kind of close to death, working in some capacity, but they've left that character very open to interpretation.
I'm glad they did that.
Yeah.
I do like the idea that maybe that he's a survivor. That this did happen, so we could get a flashback of what happened to him. But I like. I
don't know if that works now. Yeah, I think it's especially with Tony Todd, who also just a moment to say how much, I had a mini fan heart attack when Bob Shea was like, we're gonna ask Tony Todd to play the Mortician. I'm like, are you how Candyman? Just the Candyman. So very blessed to have him in the franchise, because he's
such a sweet guy. I've met him.
Such a sweet guy and such an amazing actor. He's doing Fences right now at a Shakespeare Film Festival. I mean, that guy, I saw him do a one-man show for like a 90-minute one-man show, just him on stage playing the first African-American boxer to win a championship. And he just owned the stage for like 90 minutes. And then I went up to him after. I was like, I mean, he was brilliant. Just every emotion you could think of. So this is just him. He's a perfectionist. He's like, man, I messed up 2 lines. I'm like, Tony, like, you own that stage for 90 minutes. Like, if I'd have done a one-man show, I would have messed up more than 2 lines, but I didn't even notice it. But he's such a good guy, and just to have him as part of this franchise, and also have him be part of such another franchise like Candyman and just so many movies. I mean, he's been on so many iconic TV. Just a wonderful man. Yeah. So.
Candyman, then Final Destination, Night of Living Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this guy's been in Star Trek.
He's been in he's been in so many things. And
I loved him in Holliston, where he's playing himself. And that's Adam Green loves working with him, and yes. I don't blame him. I want to work with him someday. I just need to be able to afford him.
Yeah. He's cheap. I know.
I'm
not saying I'm trying to be funny. It's like he's not, yeah, no, he's a good guy. He's definitely, based on the material. I think it's like that. That's what really attracts him to work. But he's had such a long, distinguished career that he's
Tony Todd.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people, they ask, oh, if you had to have somebody narrate your life, who would you want it to be? And a lot of people would say Morgan Freeman because of that voice.
yeah,
I want Tony Todd. I want that voice. That's, just the,
yeah.
just kind of that, it's a deep but low kind of pitched voice that.
I'll go with you go with Tony Todd. I'll go with Robert Englund. We'll have a.
Oh, that's a good choice too.
We'll have different narrators for our life, but both are amazing actors, and I adore Tony in this. I was really bummed rewatching because I hadn't seen part 4 in a while, and I was like, man, he's sadly
missing.
He's sadly missing. So,
but I read that he was making another film at the time, and it just conflicted. But I don't know. Have him on the radio. Just have his voice there somewhere.
No. Yeah, I think you need to have him in there. I know that in part 3, they didn't bring him back, and then I think it was after a test screening, the fans were like, "Where the F is Tony Todd?" And so then they had him be the voice announcer. But my thing is like, I think he's such an integral part of the franchise. Like, just bring him. Do what you did with part 5. Bring him in and showcase him, because again, he's kind of part of the whole legacy of that film.
It was so funny because my friend Jackie and I were watching it, and I kept going. We're on the phone, talking while we're watching it, right? And I was just like, what is it? There's Tony. There's Tony again. Why does Tony keep popping up?
I know, it was awesome. It was real. That's why I say I feel like it was they really made an effort to make it for the fans, because there is not just one scene of Tony showing up and saying stuff. It's like he's in it more. He's in it more. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in it more than he's been in any of them.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
And I think people thought he was deaf for a while, that he was the one doing this. I remember that when the series first came out, that it was just like, oh, Tony Todd's deaf.
Yeah.
Right.
And now I think the mystery of who he is kind of like, the mystery of life and death. We may never get it may just be open to interpretation on who you.
Well, that actually leads me to my other question, which I did bring up to you on email, but the big question was like, who's warning? Like who's sending the visions? Is it death itself? Which would be contradictory to itself, or is it God, or is it? I thought it was the devil. I think my idea is it's the devil working and helping these people avoid death.
We've discussed this every single video of who it is, and
I think
until part 4, that's when God was brought into it, because the guy tried to commit suicide, and he just fell from the from the fan, and he brings God into it, and like. See, that's messed up, because they say in the very first film, nothing will happen on this plane because God would be really messed up because there's a handicapped guy and a baby.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know, somebody's got to be giving these visions. Somebody's got to be counted. So there's got to be God is here, let's say, and then you have death, but there's got to be somebody else over here. And God may be like, hey, go give this vision. Let's mess with death for a while. And then Death's like, now I got to go kill him.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's Satan.
I think that is something that could be explored for sure. I can only tell you what originally was my intention. Because, definitely when you write a script, it's always like, who, what's happening, why is it happening to this person, and why now? So, in my original script, Alex had the premonition because he wasn't supposed to die on the plane, in the plane crash. So he was supposed to, that was to scare him off the plane, to just keep him alive. But everybody else that he got off the plane, he doomed to be on death's list. They, through the development process and once they started shooting, they never quite answered that question about the premonitions. And so now it's become kind of one of those open questions. It's like, well, why are they having the premonition if they're not, if death's going to get them anyway? So I think that, I think there's an angle in there to explore as well, because it's also kind of basic kind of movie telling in a way. It's like if something is happening. But sometimes you don't ask how Freddy Krueger got in dreams necessarily, but that's one person. But if you're having a bunch of people having premonitions, I think there could be a really cool way to tie that in.
You're right. Nobody ever asked
who
that
and why.
But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to know, because then it ends up being metachlorians. And then
Yeah.
we're like, oh, man, why did you
Yeah.
have to explain the Force?
See, and I like, and that's what I think's cool about the movie as well, is we've tried to keep it, I was very mindful in the first film to kind of keep it away from any specific, like, religion or belief system tied into any kind of, you know what I'm saying, any kind of belief system, because death is universal. Like, it doesn't matter, what your religious beliefs are, or if you're religious or not. We all know that death is, inevitable. So I wanted to keep it as open as possible to people of any background to be able to go in and see the movie and feel like, it sounds awful, but this could happen to me. And I think if you put any kind of like specificity on like the Christian religion, then people that aren't Christian are going to be like, I don't have to worry about that. Or people who aren't religious will be like, I don't have to worry about that. And if you make it, people who don't believe in God, then everybody who's religious are like, I don't have to believe in that. I don't have to. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of kept it more of it's part of just life thing, as opposed to, tying it into any kind of specific belief system. And I think that's helped really, helped make it kind of what it is today, which is people of all different backgrounds and around the world know about it, and it's crazy,
Well, yeah, because you could have, let's take the roller coaster as an example. You could have an atheist on there. You could have a Muslim on there. You can have a Christian on there, and it doesn't matter. I don't think death cares what religion you are. I don't think death cares if you're male or female or black or white or whatever it is. You're now on the list.
Yeah, if you're on the list, you're
on the list.
You're on the list.
I think the guy that, in part 4 is he's going to AA. He has the Bible next to him.
Yeah.
So he's probably reborn. And so of course he's going to kind of equate things with God. So he's going to go to Christianity, while maybe somebody else wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I actually, wait, I'm sorry. I have one question. I want to make sure that I ask this before you leave. So I brought this up to Jonathan a few times. So Alex doesn't return for part 2. And I have a theory of why he was killed by a brick.
Okay, I'd love to hear your theory. Okay,
so first film is a hit, made a lot of money. They're like, let's get back people from part 1. So, they get back, some of the people they get, and then he's like, no, I want too much money. And they're like, well, no, we're not going to pay you this. And he's like, then I'm not going to do the movie. And so the writers, who my friend went to school with, actually at Art Center, go, okay, then we're just going to kill you off in the dumbest way possible. No, we're not going to do a banana peel. That's too silly. Let's do a brick. We're just going to have a brick randomly drop on you. And that's how you're going to die. You're not going to get a good death. You're not going to get anything explosive or exciting or shocking. It's just going to be Alex killed by brick. And I really wanted a picture of Alex and the brick next to one another in the paper. And it would just be brick, kills, him. And that's my theory on it, is he just got mad. And because he wouldn't come back. It's like, okay, we're just going to kill you off stupidly.
Well, it's funny because I've gotten to know especially Eric Bress really, really well over the years, and J. Mackey Gruber. They're great guys. No, there were some scheduling problems, and there were some issues getting him back for the sequel. I had written both of them into the sequel. That's why I killed Ali Larder off, is because I was like, well, I don't want to kill both of them, but I'll kill Ali Larder off in this story. But there's just some scheduling stuff, and they couldn't work it out. And I do think the brick thing was probably a fuck you, not working stuff out. No, but right. I don't blame Devin for that. And I actually got really bothered by that because I think Devin is such a huge part of the reason that the first film was a success. I mean, aside from being a great actor, um, I intentionally wanted to kind of turn some of the horror conventions on their head. And he was, I was very proud to have him as kind of one of the, few final guys in our genre
right?
from studio films. And I think that did such a good job with that performance. I mean, he's just amazing as that character. And so it's kind of like with Tony Todd the whole reason Tony Todd's not in 3 is because they couldn't work some stuff out,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a point where it's like, well, the studio doesn't sometimes really value everybody that they should value in films. And they're like, oh, it's just a horror film. It doesn't matter if these people are in it or not. And then they find out later on that people do care. So I think with Alex, it was like, they just didn't, they weren't able to kind of work out a schedule thing that made everybody happy. And then, yes, I think that they decided to write him out in a ridiculous way, which pissed me off as a fan, but also as the guy who fucking created Alex. I mean, obviously Devin brought him to life, but I'm just saying as the lead of my first film, it was even worse than how they treated, Amy King in Friday the 13th Part 2. At least she got a good send off. And I found out later on about her stalker and why she didn't come back for the second one. But I didn't know that at the time. And I'm like, you don't make somebody really care for your lead character and then like just treat him like shit in the sequel. So
yeah,
I've always had an issue with that. But as we saw with the last Scream film, we thought Kirby was dead. And then you saw in the last Scream film, like there was that YouTube clip that she's very much alive and now she's coming back for the sequel. So in my, thinking, just as, Clear was able to hide out in that asylum for so long, we didn't see Alex get hit in the head with a brick. All we saw was like a newspaper article. So, my thing is he could still be out there.
Is it like a Laurie Strode in Halloween H2O where he might
That's
have faked his death?
For as much, as much as I can push things with people, it doesn't mean it's ever going to go anywhere. But that's always been my argument that we didn't see him die on screen. For all we know, he's still out there.
Interesting.
Surviving in the woods somewhere.
Hey, if you bring him back, just don't have him get his head chopped off in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh no, that would be ridiculous.
Well, that's what they did with Laurie Strode in Halloween Resurrection.
Halloween Resurrection, yeah.
Yeah.
I think she got tired of that. But the good thing is, like, this is obviously, me just talking now, as a fan and somebody who still, cares a lot about the franchise. I think I don't think they would ever bring him back to do that, but it's great to see Devin having such a resurgence, now with the, Chucky series. I mean, third time's a charm, he's coming back again. And he's up for an Emmy for Hacks. So he's an awesome actor. He's a good friend too. So I would love to have a sequel where he's, comes
maybe you
back.
could talk to the Part 6,
Well, that's already down the road as far as the story goes. But
okay.
But I did have a really wonderful conversation with Guy Busick, who's doing 6 with his writing partner Stephanie, and they reached out to me. It was very sweet, because in this industry, a lot of times when people come on to do a sequel, they're like, they don't care really about like the history of the franchise. Maybe they've watched some sequels or they binge them before they have a pitch meeting, but they're very, just like they were with Scream, they were so interested in, kind of forging a new path, but also being respectful of the franchise itself. So we had a great conversation where they just wanted to know, like, what, as a creator, what do you think are like the essentials to a Final Destination movie, that we may not think of, just picking your brain. So I gave them a couple of like little small things that are from my perspective are things that could be explored a little more, or that are, not the essentials. That's maybe not the right word. I mean, they know what the essentials are, great opening set piece, fun characters, fun, like tense filled moments of what's going to kill them, like that stuff they knew, but they were like, are there any other like ingredients that you feel like, maybe even haven't been explored in the other films, but are just kind of key to this as somebody who's invested in it. So I had a really nice conversation with them.
We've had a discussion before, and I brought this up where I have a theory on stuff as far as the writing goes, which you write this, so obviously you know more than I do. But my idea is because a lot of the times it's like 7 people that get off like the roller coaster or the whatever, and we were wondering why 7, and I was like thinking about it. The movies are generally 90 minutes long, 90 pages long, and each death is usually about 10 pages before the next death, right? So 7 pages plus 10-minute opening and then 10-minute closing, right? So generally speaking, that's why, and that I feel like that's a little bit of a formula, but it's a formula like that works.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is I never thought about that when I wrote the first one. It was more about how many characters do I think I can write and have enough to give them all personalities where they stand out, so they're not just like cannon fodder. So it really was about how many characters,
right.
You definitely want to have death, but again, 2 of the people survive. So then it was like, so there were going to be like 5 deaths, and I just wanted to make sure that I had enough characters where I felt like I could, could do that right. And then with the second one, I intentionally wanted to start the movie off where you think it's going to be following these 4 teenagers, in the red truck with AJ Cook driving, with Kimberly driving, and think it's going to be another teenage movie, and then I kill all the teenagers except for AJ Cook, and then all the adults kind of come into play. Well, except for I think it's Timmy that gets smashed with the glass. I hope that's his name. I'll be embarrassed if it's not. Timmy it popped into my head. But the kid that gets smushed with the glass, which is another great scene. I love part 2.
Okay, so that's another question I have, and I brought this to Jonathan many times, that death may not even be killing these people. They may just be clumsy. Because death is just kind of like this. Oh, I'm just going to let this happen. Because the kid who gets smashed with the glass, he has the incident upstairs in the dentist, room. He comes downstairs. He sees the pigeons. He runs to the pigeons. The construction guy goes, "Hey, don't do that." And then like a control is hit. The birds fly all over and the glass falls on him. And I'm like, he caused it. The kid caused his own death. And the construction worker even said, "Don't do that." And I'm like, I wonder how many times death is just standing there watching.
Oh, death is doing it.
Own death.
Okay.
Death just has a good sense of humor.
Okay, well, there's the other one in part 3 with the gym, at the gym. Like all the stuff that's going on, if they didn't come to the place and bother them, would all of that have happened?
Yeah.
Would those people have died then?
I think that ties into the idea that kind of everything we do is kind of like leading us closer to whatever our fate is, whether it's death or something good. So I think it's, I always think it's death, but some of them, some of them are like, don't go chase those birds. It's kind of that. It's not like everything is predestined where it's like, okay, I'm going to walk down. If I walk down this street, I'll be murdered. But if I walk down that street, I won't be murdered. Mm-hmm. But there's kind of a mixture, I think, of like death playing cat and mouse with these people. But there is an element of our own actions, and we have ownership in our lives too. Like that's why, again, I never wanted the films to be about we're all gonna be dead at the end of this film, no matter what we do, because that doesn't leave any hope for that, that our actions can prolong our life. And I think that kind of ties into, it's kind of a mixture of what you said. It is if he would have listened to them and not ran into those
and not be a little brat.
Pigeons. Who doesn't go pigeons and run into them? Yeah, but he might have prolonged his life. It would have skipped him, maybe.
Well, yeah, kind of like Jonathan. That is one that we talked about in part 3 was the gym, because we were talking like, okay, so if the two people didn't go to the gym, then would the guy not have his head crushed by the weights? Because you're in a room with a bunch of roided out guys, and you have this hot girl come in, and all of a sudden they're trying to impress her, and they're like, "Rah, rah," and they're hitting that bear that's there, and they're getting all roided up, and they're all excited, and they're causing all this kind of vibration. But maybe if they never showed up, that would have never happened. They wouldn't have been that way.
Maybe if they weren't doing steroids, they wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, I guess that goes to, like, you're right, Jeffrey, that maybe it's a mixture of both, of the thing, like, death probably was there. Death was probably going to kill the guy. I think he was going to kill him with the swords in the gym. The swords came down. It looked like it was going to attack him, but they like saved him from that. But then, and the guy got really excited, and then bam, just he thought he was invincible, and then got his head.
See, that's that hubris. It's like, oh, we saved you from that. It's like, oh, well, nothing can get me now.
Yep, exactly.
Every time you say that,
they did that again in the Final Destination, where the guy was like, oh, wow, I guess this wasn't my time. And then the thing just shot at him, and, like, it was his time, and just because death has, you've stopped death for a second, he's still coming, somehow. And I like that. I've always liked the idea of an invisible force, like something out there you can't see, that's gonna that's gonna get you somehow or another. And it's like life. We talked about this. We've talked about how crazy, like, shit happens. I know you, John, said that there was a moment where you felt like death had come at you like 3 times, and you survived, and now you're like afraid to drive.
2 head-on collisions and 1 rear ender. The cops said I should have been dead. So there was but now I say, I think maybe 3 times the charm, and hopefully that's it. It's done.
Done with me.
You destroyed 2 cars, broke 4 of my bones. It's like, come on, enough is enough.
He's done. He's gone on.
Leave me the fuck alone. And you've tried enough.
But yeah, it's like, well, I mean, and that goes to the thing of, like, if you're on death's list, right? You're on that list as the Grim Reaper's coming for you somehow or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then somebody gets a message that, okay, death, we're all gonna die if we stay on here and we leave or whatever. I would have thought, and this would ruin the movie, period. But I would have thought death would just be like, hey, wait, come back here. I'm going to kill you right now. Like, you guys are supposed to die, like, I'm not going to wait for you.
Movie has to happen. So
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It would ruin the movie, because it would be a short, like, that would be over.
Well, and with Jonathan and I bringing up all this stuff, God, death, all this type of stuff, then I remember saying on one of the videos was, maybe we're thinking way too much about this. Maybe it's just very simple. They were supposed to die and death kills them. Maybe it's just that simple. There is nothing more than exactly what it is. That there isn't this giant plan, that it's what the movie is exactly what the film is. Oh, you were supposed to die on the plane, and now I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. Well, and we tried, what I did with the second one is I wanted to actually set up, the idea that we're all, connected, as humans, first of all, and the people who were supposed to die in the second film didn't realize it, but all of their lives have been impacted because the people survived Flight 180. So they were alive when they shouldn't have been alive. So that had a ripple effect on these other people and caused them to miss their times to die. So that's why they were all on that freeway that day. So I did want to kind of tie into this thing that we're all, it's not just about like death is death. I did want to tap into this bigger thing that, you know, each of us are connected and are, you know, on some level, you know, that butterfly effect, anything that we do has ripple
From
effects.
The writers of
The Butterfly Effect. I know, I fucking love that movie.
Those are the next films we're doing after these.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if Jonathan told you how we're doing these. Somehow they're all connected. So what did we start with? Scream?
We started with Scream, and
then it was Kevin Williams.
Kevin Williamson, and then
Kevin Williamson.
And then I guess I decided we did like Disturbing Behavior, and then Disturbing Behavior had a connection to Final Destination. I forgot who it was, but there was somebody. Oh, it was the Chad Dinella. It was in both.
Oh yeah.
And
well,
then,
actually, Scream has a connection to Final Destination because when I originally wrote the treatment, because back in the day you could sell treatments to studios, and then write the script. Then they would pay you to write the script. It was originally they were all adult characters, so I kind of brought that back for the second one. But then Scream came out, and I love Scream. But teenagers were hot again in horror films. So the studio's like, why don't we make them teenagers? I'm like, all right. So you could have connected it with Scream as well, because that's the whole reason that they became teenagers in the first film.
Remember, it's all connected.
It's all connected. Yeah.
I love that. I you know, because it's funny, you know, Scream and Final Destination, two different franchises, but they're both so loved by the horror fans, you know, like the same horror fans too. I think the same ones who love Scream love Final Destination and vice versa. And I think that's just so amazing because they're different, you know, they're not the same movie, you know, or anything, but they're so well done. And I you know, Final Destination series, like I was so happy to be doing this, and now we're doing the Butterfly Effect, and we're gonna be doing other, you know, other ones as well.
See what connects to one of
Butterfly
those three.
Effect. Yeah, you know?
That's amazing.
And also I got to real quick, I got to meet Kerr Smith this weekend.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I told him we were doing this and everything. I didn't mention you because I wasn't sure if we were, you know, if you were able to or not, you know, at the time. But I did talk to him, and he was just very gracious and sweet. And I mentioned that we kind of called him the I guess the jerk character, the jerk jock character, and he said, "Oh, you know, you mean the asshole?" You know?
Yeah.
Right. So he's a sweet guy.
He's a very nice guy. Yeah. So that was against type for sure.
Yeah, well, he played in Dawson's Creek, which also connects to Kevin Williamson, but he played the you know, the first gay character in a lot of those like CW type, you know, horror, you know, or not horror, just CW type drama shows and stuff.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was awesome, you know.
Yeah.
So he was very nice. I really liked meeting him, and I wish I could have chatted with him more, you know. But you know, there's only 2 days I was there, and I didn't want to bother him, you know, like he was busy.
Oh, it's good you got to meet him. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I got a picture with him too, which
that's cool. That's even better.
That's even better. So I'll always remember that. What were you saying, John? I think.
Well, I was going to ask Jeffrey. What do you think is worse? And this is all the films.
What do you think is the worst thing in the world?
Is this? It's not as bad as that. Do you think the premonition deaths are worse or better than the deaths that happen afterwards?
I think the premonition. I think the opening of part 2 is one of my favorite openings of any horror film. And that a lot, you know, most of that credit goes to David Ellis, who directed it. I think that opening set piece is phenomenal.
It's one of the best.
I think the opening death scenes are scary and fun, but they're all rooted in reality. So it does make them, you know, I think the plane crash scene in the first movie was was done really well and very frightening. The second one is just my favorite. I just love that one.
Yeah.
But the roller coaster ride, like those are all rooted in real kind of fears that can happen to people. So there's something scary about that because it's like, oh shit, I can just be driving and this happens. I think there's a suspense and tension to the other deaths that happen when death comes after people that makes it suspenseful. But again, I think it's almost like this dark cat and mouse game where you're watching these things kind of coalesce around somebody and you're not sure exactly how it's going to get them, and then wham, it gets them. So there's a different kind of suspense and horror to that, and there's a little bit of dark humor too, because every time you think something's going to happen and it doesn't, you kind of laugh for a minute and you breathe and you're like, oh, that didn't do it, but something else is. So there's this fun kind of buildup of tension that's suspenseful, but it's not as horrific as, again, seeing something that's like a realistically shot plane crash or a freeway pile up or a bridge collapsing or a roller coaster or mayhem at NASCAR, which is, again, those are shot kind of very realistically. So that's that. I just did a complete politician on you there and didn't answer your question, but instead gave credence to both sides. Because I think there are two different kinds of scares. I think the opening scenes always leave people shocked and scared, but it's in a way that's like, oh shit, that could really happen to me. The other stuff, they still think that, but it's still more like looking around for signs, trying to figure out what's going to get the person. So I think it's a different kind of scare.
Yeah. I always love it because, like, you know, I've even written stuff that's similar in the sense of like, stuff that, you know, some kind of mystical force, you know, happening or whatever. I remember I sent a script to a producer, and she gave me some great notes. And one of the things she had said was, because there was a scene in a bathtub, and it was electrocution scene, you know, right?
Mhm.
And that's sort of been done. It's been, you know, whatever, like so many people have done that. And she was like, what you should have done right there is have it be where the thing's about to fall in and it doesn't, and it catches on something, and then you know, the person gets up and then knocks it in, you know, or whatever, you know,
Right.
that kind of thing. And that's sort of done in Final Destination a lot, you know, but it's sort of things that happen to us in real life. Like, you know, we have that, you know, we might have that boom box next to our bath, you know, and we never think it's going to fall in and electrocute us, but
Oh
it
yeah,
would, you know,
absolutely. Yeah.
and if that's the way we're going to die, that's the way we're possibly going to die.
Hopefully
you know?
not with a boombox by a bathtub. That would be embarrassing, especially for us, because it's like, well, they saw Final Destination, they did a podcast on it. You think they would have known better than to have a boombox by a bathtub?
Yeah, exactly.
But
I love those deaths. Like, I just,
Yeah.
you know, a lot. So.
Well, and some of the simpler ones are good. Like, you know, Jonathan, we talked about in part 4, the racist being caught on fire. And to me, that's one of my favorite deaths, because
yeah,
I hate racists. I don't like racist people.
Yeah.
Leave people alone. You know, let them live their own lives. And I was talking to Jonathan, like, this guy wakes up every morning hating. And like, how can you exist with just hating? Just constantly. So when he caught on fire, I was like, yeah. And it wasn't an elaborate, you know, this has to do this, to do this, to do that. It was only a couple things. And then he caught on fire. And, you know, you just see the guy walk out from his house, you know, who happens to be, you know, black, because he's putting up the cross to burn. And he's like, kind of like watching the guy like that is he's just going down the street on fire. And it's one of the worst ways to die, if not the worst way to die.
It is. Fire. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was.
Yeah, I think we've said before our favorite death is the death you came up with, and I've talked about this before, is that you've been on my show talking about how you were the one who did the log, you know, wrote the log, came up with the log idea.
Oh yeah, the log truck, yeah.
And I think you said
that's a meme.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of memes. I love them. I love them.
Every time I see somebody will post, anytime that they're by logs, they will post on Facebook, not go near that,
Yeah.
log truck.
I've
And
seen Final Destination.
Yeah.
There's the log truck.
I did that on my way when I was moving to LA back in 2019. I was on my way there and we saw one and I was going on live. I was live on Facebook and I was like, oh God, like we're going next to a
Yeah.
truck. We need I was in the passenger seat, was not driving and
Excuse me.
Facebooking. So that would be a reason to die from those things or whatever. But also, I did not see a premonition or anything yet,
Which is good.
You just had images of Final Destination 2 in your head.
Has anybody ever contacted you about that? Said, I saw images of or whatever, like visions or anything?
No. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I've had a couple people over the years hit me up, but I'm not sure if they really
did.
Really saw stuff or thought they did. So they seem like they may not really be psychic. They may have some other issues.
Well, maybe they are psychic and they just don't know it. They don't realize it. That was that was their thing. And then they're like, oh my God, I've got I'm able to cheat death, and that's just an amazing period of doing that. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And I've got to run. This is a horrible segue, but I told Jonathan before when I called earlier, the floods that have hit Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee have really hit my hometown hard, like wiped out so many homes and businesses and families are, lost everything, and people have died and people are missing, and it's just really awful. So I've just been dealing with that the last several days. So I would love it if anybody listening, would hit me up or follow me on Twitter or Instagram. It's my name, Jeffrey A. Reddick. There's a link in my profile to where you can go to help donate funds to help people affected by the flooding. So,
we'll post that below too. So
I appreciate that.
If there's a GoFundMe or something kind of link, we'll definitely help
I did a video and then I linked up. I did a video where I recommended a couple of organizations, but then I just linked an article from CNN that had all the different places that you could donate. So, so I've just been dealing with a lot of stress with making sure that people that I know and love are okay, and a lot of them aren't. So it's just been a stressful time. So yeah, even if you just share the video on Twitter or Instagram and help spread awareness, because I know it's tough times out there and some of us can't afford to donate things right now or donate money. Just awareness would be very appreciated.
Well, thank you so much you spent more time than I was expecting, honestly.
Yeah,
with
thank
us,
you very much.
We really appreciate that. And
no, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I'm glad that you guys are fans and spreading the word, the good Final Destination word. And
we're looking forward to 6, man. Bring 6 on. Come on.
Yeah, me too.
Get it going.
Yeah, and I hope everything works out. Everything's okay with the people in your area. So that's horrible.
Yeah, yes. It's a lot of, the hometown impacts me a lot, that whole region, but it's also, West Virginia and Tennessee were hit really hard as well. So, there's a lot of people out there that are in need right now. So.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll do what we can, and
I appreciate it.
And thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you. There's your cat.
He's like, well, your cat's leaving, so we got to bring his cat on.
Yeah, we got to get some kitty in here.
My cat's outside causing trouble. I don't know where he's at. So, but thank you so much.
Okay.
And
it's been my pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, but an honor meeting you. So.
Oh, thank you, John. All right, I'll take care.
All right.
Thank you. You too.
Right.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, that was awesome. Oh,
yeah, that was great.
what a great little interview. Got a lot of questions out.
Yeah.
Talked a little bit about part 5, but not, enough to make this the final one anyway. So let's just go into a little bit of it. We won't do as much time because it will be probably about the same amount, but that we normally do. So first of all, like I told Jeffrey, I absolutely love this movie. Completely. Like, this was probably up there. Like, I used to say it's like 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, and now it's probably 1, 2, 5, 3, 4. 4 is still my least favorite, but once again, shortest one, and from what he said, I totally understand. But I still loved it. I just love this a lot more. What do you think?
After rewatching it feels like a movie. Like, it feels like a film. It actually, they take more time with things. And it seems like even with part 4, it's like that's when they hit their stride. Like, they knew what they were doing. Like, they throw in some in jokes and stuff like that. And it really kind of feels like 4 and 5 to me kind of matched together. So you got like 1 and 2, 3's kind of on its own, and then 4 and 5 fit together. Because even the credits are the same. They're very similar in their credit sequences. So it's almost like like somebody said, we got it. We know what we're doing now.
But the credits start in the beginning of this compared to the they started
part 4 was
part 4 they started with, they go right into the racetrack in part 4, and then they do the credits like 10 minutes after the whole stuff happens, right? Then they do the credits. They start out with the credits, then they go into the movie, and you're right, it's a movie where the beginning of the movie, they're setting up all the characters. You're getting to know every single one of these people before they get into the car or the bus, right? I think it was a bus, right? It was a bus, big bus.
Yeah, it was like a rented bus. Yeah.
Right. And so they were getting everybody there, and they all worked at this factory, paper factory, mill kind of place. And okay, so it was a retreat that they were going to, right? My biggest question about that was the one guy that worked in the factory itself, right? How was he in connection with them? Like,
you talking about the black guy?
The black guy, because he was he worked at the factory, right? He didn't work in the office,
right?
Stuff. Why was he going on the retreat?
Maybe just to have the head guy with them, so he could then translate things from the retreat to them.
Okay, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know, because it was never explained at all because he even got like in trouble for bailing out on work to go to a work retreat, right? Like, that was, I would imagine that would have been something they would have said, you have to go to the, this retreat. So we're going to take you a day off your work or whatever, so you can go, time off your work so you can go. Like, it seemed like that was like a last minute decision or something. I don't know. It was very confusing to me. So
I'm thinking maybe because he's new and it's like, okay, bring him along. He might learn.
But he was like a boss, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he was just hired. Like, he'd only been there for like a week or so. I think he said like 2 weeks. And speaking of like another racist, I was so happy to see that one worker who told him, fuck you on his time card and all that. I mean, talk about a guy who doesn't want his job. I mean, of course, he knew that the guy didn't have enough balls to fire him, but I love that he died. I
love that he died too.
Yeah, it's nice when you see that type of stuff. Like, the character that I didn't like in part 5, I didn't like the guy that was talking to the women all the time on the phone.
You didn't like PJ Byrne, I think? Was that the guy, the guy with the glasses?
Yeah.
The bigger guy that had the massage.
Yeah. I because one, not a good looking guy.
It's BJ Byrne though. He's one of I
I'm
don't know if
sorry, women would not be all over him the way that it's being portrayed.
That's
It
what
wouldn't.
he always plays though, which is funny. It's always sort of funny.
I didn't find it funny. I
thought it
actually
was
was
hilarious.
glad when he fell on the ground.
He always plays,
and he's a racist. You know, he's making fun of the Asian women.
Oh, when I was talking to Jackie watching it, I was like, this could not be made today. Like the stuff that they were saying was so racist, so nasty. Well, you know, once again,
Buddha does land on his head, so he gets what's coming to him.
I know, but like sometimes people read that and they go, no, we can't put that in there, you know, because even though it's a racist who says this stuff, right? You've pointed this out that when they do movies or whatever, it's like the racist, part 4, racist who dies, you know, in the hands of whatever. It's ironic, but it's also, but the dude is saying these nasty things. I even think he said in part 4, he said the N-word, you know, where opposed this guy was saying racist things about the Asian persuasion, you know, like, and everything. So it was sort of, it was crazy. I could not believe that they did that. So
yeah, I don't mind the actor. I mean, I really don't know who he is, to be honest.
I've known him. He's a comedy actor, and
he does not bother me. I did not believe, and maybe that's the joke, is that he is not a good-looking guy who is talking to all these women. And then I was like, maybe he's faking it. Like he's talking to these women in front of a hot woman to make her think he's all that when he's not. But his dialogue on the phone seemed more like he was talking to somebody.
Right.
And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not buying you. And I've now watched this, twice recently. And it's like, I just don't believe this guy would ever get laid. I don't.
Well, if you noticed, I mean, we never see that. We never see women all over him, like kissing him or anything. You know, he's never with a hot woman. And B, he did that. He said that stuff on the phone. He was talking to the girl on the phone saying he was going to do all these things to her or whatever, you know, and stuff. And then when he looks at the girl, she says something to him. So he's like, oh, I got to go. Bye. You know, like, oh, no, there's, a tunnel, blah, 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 whatever, getting off the phone. And then he hits on the girl, and she had just heard him hitting on another girl,
Right.
So, like, obviously that wasn't gonna, fly.
No,
right?
and I was happy about that. And I like that they had the older woman go in.
Yeah. Well, she was like, I got the right person for you. And
I would love her to come in and do that to me. Oh my God, my body would feel great.
I know. Well,
because he's like, oh my God, you're so strong. And it's just, just to have her throw you around, and she's like your back's out of alignment and you're hearing all the cracking, and it's like, oh my God, I would love that.
The scene reminded me of the scene in part 3 with the tanning bed, because of the idea that like maybe somebody would be scared of getting him a massage now or having acupuncture with candles being lit around. That doesn't sound like a very good idea, period, or whatever. But, having lit candles when you're trying to sleep. I mean, I never will do that myself, just because if you accidentally push something down or something gets knocked down somehow, the whole place is going to, get on fire. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of his fault in a way, because it did say turn off your phone, and he didn't. He left it on vibrate. So, and then that's, vibrated to the candle, and that's kind of what started the whole thing.
Right.
So it's like,
well,
and
I started it.
Well, that's true. That, as we found out. And,
yes.
And I was hoping, when the place caught on fire, I went, another racist who's going to get burnt up. And then Buddha falls on him, and I thought, okay, well, that's good. I like that.
Right, like that. because you thought, one thing, and then they give you something else. which is great. It's like that scene where the guy falls down and he like the ladder almost hits him, but then it does,
Yeah.
because you weren't expecting it, because you were like, oh, he's safe, he's fine, and then or whatever. As Jeffrey pointed out, I really loved the gymnast scene because
That's brutal.
I was brutal. I could see if I were in the audience. I don't know if I watched this in the theater or not, but if I watched it in the audience, I would have been, like I would have been like, oh shit.
I think I probably laughed when I saw it. I probably laughed out loud because it's pretty ridiculous. It's a great death scene and it's got some good effects on it too. But that scene goes back to, was death really a part of that? Because the fan is spinning, it's a loose bolt.
Jeffrey says it is. Jeffrey says it is. It's canon. It's got to be.
And it falls. And so what if it just got knocked on the floor instead of being on the bar?
But it didn't. It was there. If it got knocked down, which has happened in many of the movies where the thing falls, maybe that little was a pin or whatever it was, nail,
It was the screw that came out of the fan.
Maybe the screw would maybe fall on the ground. Death would figure out another way. Death would be like, damn it. Okay, well, let me do this, set this up, because it does that sometimes. Remember, somebody might turn something off and that didn't look like that was part of the plan, right? So then Death goes, okay, well, if that's going to be the case, I'm going to make water appear, or whatever. Remember, the water comes and knocks and trips somebody and people fall and get strangled, right? In the first one, the guy I was talking about, Chad Danella.
But that's Death purposely moving water,
right?
And then we see the water disappear,
right? I'm saying that would happen if the nail, the screw fell on the ground. It would have found another way. It would have been, because,
but it's not like Death covered his tracks, because that's when the detective, who I really liked in this, the black guy, the detective, he's a good actor.
Yeah, it wasn't like Law and Order, Criminal Intent and stuff. It was in that, and I loved him in that.
See, and that's why I think this part 5 really feels like a movie, because they really brought in the cops. And he was investigating, and we see him at the crime scenes and all that stuff. But he gets the water on his head. So it's not like Death stopped the leak, So right. It's I don't know. I kind of stand by mine. Maybe some people are just clumsy. I really think that. I mean, hey, I was at work and I keep the AC because it's 104 out here, 113, and I keep the AC at like 68, 70, and I guess something went wrong and one of the pipes was leaking and it was dripping on our ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just that board that you could just like rip right open. And all of a sudden it came down.
Well,
that wasn't death. That was just, it was leaking and it became weak and it fell on the floor, but it was right next to me.
Yeah. But like, Death is planning that if that's going to happen to you. Like, if you're going to die, that's how you're going to die. That's how you're going to die. Right. Like, if you're going to die.
Yes and no.
So I have a spinning fan right now, right? It's on number 3. It's spinning like crazy, and it actually worries me because even though it's very sturdy up there, it looks like it's not, and I keep getting this like thought in my head. It's not a premonition. Don't worry. But I keep getting this thought in my head that it's going to fall and it's going to like cut my dog or me up, because, if it
so
falls,
then turn it down to 2.
No, but then I won't be as cold.
Okay, then you take the chance of having it cut your head off or cut your dog in half.
I guess that's what I've been doing anyway. So, and it hasn't happened. So, but if God, or not God, but if the death wants us, death wants us to get killed that way, then we're going to. You
I mean,
know?
I would say like the black guy, the guy that took the job in the warehouse. I
Right.
would say that was definitely death. You know, at the end when the engine falls on him in the bar, which is
Mhm.
hilarious. And then of course to find out that the guy that hates him had like a massive like was it like blood clot in his head that was going to explode anyways.
That's what
That's
I
pretty
think we
funny.
talked about that briefly because I dug that. And I told when we were chatting with Jeffrey, remember I mentioned that I thought I love the idea that if you kill somebody, you know, that you get their life, right? You get the rest of their life. And then it turns out that that guy is already going to die. So, oh shit, you know, that means I'm going to already die. That death's already coming after me still. So I think it's a big risk. You're going to go kill some, say, I'm going to, you know, I know that death's coming after me. I'm going to go kill this person, you know, would I get their life or not, you know? It was interesting.
Well,
I like
and
that.
like and with what Jeffrey was saying about Alex, how in like his original script, it was that he wasn't supposed to die. They kind of did that with the blonde in this, the girlfriend. She doesn't.
Yes, she
Yeah,
wasn't supposed to die. She didn't die, or at least
yeah,
not in the premonition.
yeah. She
So
didn't. Yeah, and that's where the friend got all pissed off. Like, well, why did you save her and not this other girl? Well, one, you're an idiot because that's not my girlfriend. You know, I'm going to obviously try to save my girlfriend. You know,
well, I mean, because all right, so the bus, or he has the premonition, right? And there's, did you like the Dust in the Wind as the song? Because each movie has a
I
different
think,
sort of,
yeah. I
you
think
know.
that's a good song to play for this. Yeah.
I really liked it because I kept thinking about in Supernatural, the TV show Supernatural. There's a scene. I don't know if this was a reference or not, and I don't know. This was made in 2013, right? So it might have been around the same time ish. But there's a scene in Supernatural where Supernatural's actually, or the Dean Winchester, one of the guys from Supernatural, is helping out Death, right? You know, like he's helping the Grim Reaper, one of the Reapers, to go and collect the people who are going to die. So somebody comes, you know, comes to the other side, and the guy says, you know, what was the purpose in life, right? What was the purpose of life? And he looks at him and he goes, "We are all just dust in the wind," you know, right? And he looks at him and he goes, wait, the meaning of life is from a Kansas song?"
I mean, it might be. I
I
mean,
just thought that was funny.
that was also on Family Guy.
Oh, was
Is
it?
yeah, it is where Peter has to make a huge. It has nothing to do with like Supernatural or anything. It's completely different. But he has to make like a life decision, and one
Right.
of his friends say, the only way you're going to be able to make this decision is if you take a long walk through the city and listen to Kansas, Dust in the Wind.
Yeah. Listen, well, good example. But yeah, Dust in the Wind was a perfect song for this. And
Yeah.
so I think that was really funny that, you know, people brought that up. I wonder if Kansas Kansas is like, whoa, hey, people are talking about our song, you know,
It's
like
a
that.
great song. It's really good. What about the girl with the glasses who got the eye thing and fell out the window? What do you think about that?
Man, it made me think I don't ever want to get LASIK surgery, you know, ever. No.
I
Um,
like how she's strangling the teddy bear. Like she's holding its
yeah.
neck, and it's like it's almost gonna just like pop the head off. She's just completely string. And this is now the second thing. First, the damn dentist leaves, and now the eye doctor leaves. Like, sue these people.
I know, seriously. But she didn't get a chance to shoot Sue. She
No,
died,
no.
you know.
And then she lost her eye, ironically,
Huh.
and then a car drove over it.
Oh my
was kinda-
God, that was great. I love that. But did you notice this was in 3D, right? Like
Yeah.
this was supposed to be 3D. So I started noticing that in the beginning, and so it gave me bait flashbacks, you know, where I
Oh,
watched.
jeez, you would bait.
Well, I mean, because when I watched Bait, it was supposed to be originally in 3D, so everything was like here you go. Rah, rah, rah. And this is like the same thing as like the
Here
eye.
you go, Jonathan. Here's your thumb drive.
Exactly. And I'm like, I'm watching this movie going, was this supposed to be 3D? And then, and I'm like, yep, it's supposed to be in 3D because, like,
oh, well, you can just tell from the credits that it was
yeah.
3D. Oh, and it's Brian Taylor who does the music for this. I love his work. To me, the
Brian
sound.
Tyler, you mean? I think
Is it
Brian
Tyler or
Tyler.
Taylor?
I think Tyler.
Tyler. It's Ty. Yeah, not
yeah.
Ta. T.
I like him too. There was something about his music that just he's done so many great movies, and yeah, I mean, he just did the new Chippendales Rescue Rangers. That's awesome. I did not realize. Did the new Scream that you didn't like, so maybe he'll be back for the next one,
How interesting is part 6 going to be of Scream without Nev Campbell? I'm wondering what's.
I think she's back. I think that they screwed up and they lied, and they're just not telling you the truth right now. Because originally they were saying, oh, she's not going to be in the movie. And then they go, oh yeah, she's going to be. Now she's not going to be in it again. I don't believe it. I think she's going to be in it. I think she's going to be the opening scene. I don't think she's going to die because I don't think.
Well, she said, I saw an interview with her. She said that she'll always come back as long as she doesn't die because Sydney is not a victim.
Yeah.
So you know what really, and this is kind of off topic, but I mentioned this on one of my other videos, which is I really feel sorry for younger people these days with movies because like I just did one of my videos for like a big purchase that I got. And they were all like Italian horror films, Italian zombie movies, Mad Max ripoffs, Jaws ripoffs. They don't make those anymore. They don't. To me, that's so sad that in the 80s, I could go to any video store and I would just see all of these Italian apocalyptic films, or I'd see all the Roger Corman ripoffs, or I'd see all these films where it's like, they don't make them anymore. And then even with Scream, the original Scream, how many ripoffs were made of Scream? And now we get a brand new Scream, makes a ton of money, and nothing.
Well,
Nothing.
I mean, yeah, well, it's sort of like I think what we'll end up having in the horror genre, because right now we're sort of at this different where everybody's trying to do something different, right? Like we talked about how Final Destination 6 hopefully will come out soon, maybe next year or something, right? On HBO Max, and that's amazing. Like if that happens, I'm excited, I mean it will, but I'm just saying, like, I'm excited when it happens, right?
Oh, I'm as excited as a little girl.
Yeah, there you go. So the thing is with movies right now, really what they're trying to do is find out what everybody likes these days. And what everybody's really going for is elevated horror, A24 is like the biggest horror thing right now. It was Blumhouse at one point.
So now they might have destroyed horror.
Everybody's sick of Blumhouse, so now they're going to A24 and they're doing like Midsummer, and they got that stupid
I can rip that off.
They got that Bodies movie that I have no care for. Looks stupid and boring. There's Nope just came out, and we're going to be doing a review of that for Horror, Blood, and Coffee, and I was not a fan. I felt like it wasn't. It was just okay. It was just meh. It wasn't anything interesting. You liked the new Candyman. I wasn't a fan of the new Candyman.
Love the new Candyman. Yeah. I think it's the best one.
Now, Nia DaCosta, who did the new Candyman, she's an amazing director. I'm not gonna lie. Like, her shots were fucking breathtaking, and her she was just a great director. I just didn't care for the story of that.
Because you don't like art.
I don't like art. I don't like movies that have art in them.
You don't like art.
No, I like art. I like art if it's like available.
You don't like art.
I do. but I
You
don't like
art.
art in movies, or whatever.
So weird.
Because I don't like art.
You must hated that show, The Night Gallery, with Rod Serling, because it's
I never watched it.
My God, it's a great show. It was a great series.
I think
it all
Steven
started
Spielberg
with
directed one too, but I have just no interest.
Yeah, with Joan Crawford. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I heard about that too. I heard how how sort of difficult she was to work with, and yet he was like a first-time director, and all that stuff. Like, I found that stuff to be interesting, but I never watched it. Just I know,
Such a great show. Wow.
Yeah, good.
Well, but to go back to, I mean, so if this high horror or whatever it is what people are into, then it's dead. Film is dead, because that's the whole idea. Is you're supposed to, you steal from the best. You I don't know. It's hard for me to say exactly what I'm thinking, but I hate knowing that when like Jaws came out, my God, there were like 100 Jaws ripoffs.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna do one of them.
And
on your on our
I changed my mind, and I won't change my mind again.
Wait, you changed it from that or to that movie? I'm confused. Are you changing it back again, or I don't know? Do you still want it to be that movie? Yes. So we are keeping it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway,
you don't get that now. I mean, yeah, sure. You
Sharknado, and
it's not a Jaws ripoff. It's not. It's a gimmick.
Right.
Sharktopus and all that. You don't get all the Scream ripoffs. You don't get the Candyman ripoffs. You don't get. Look at how many April Fool's movies there were.
Like, how many Blair Witch ripoffs there were.
Yeah. So then they made a new Blair Witch. Granted, it didn't do very well. But it's like you get nothing. You get nothing these days.
Well, I mean, because like, it's already been done. People are trying, and especially like in the indie world too. People in the indie world, you're probably going to get more of that stuff. Because indie world is trying to bring back stuff they love, right? You see all these filmmakers who want. Are gonna do Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and they're gonna bring back. I'm doing it with Scream Queen Campfire. I love campfire stories, and stuff. So I'm bringing that
something
back.
You like,
right? Well, yeah. Well, I like Are You Afraid of the Dark? I like anthologies, and that's kind of what I grew up on, with horror, that and Ghostbusters. So if you can add those two together, make a Ghostbusters anthology, I'd be. Like, that would just make me go all over the place.
Ghostbusters had a ripoff that was garbage. It was called Ghostbusters 2016.
Yeah, it's called the Lady Ghostbusters.
God.
Which you know what? Paul Feig has messaged me before, like emailed me before and stuff. He's a really nice guy. I like the guy. But I will say that was, and I mean, come on, he can't say that movie was great,
Apparently he does. I mean, I don't mind him. I mean, I liked Bridesmaids.
I love Bridesmaids. I love Freaks and Geeks.
I like his TV stuff. Freaks and Geeks is great. I like a lot of his TV stuff. I don't like everything else he's done, like with Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, well, we've discussed that on one of our other pod things. That you're not a fan of hers, and that's
no, except for Bridesmaids. That's right. Really about it. Bridesmaids is where I draw the line.
Anyway, let's go back to this movie and to kind of wrap up our discussion about horror.
This is what I want. I can never do my hand right. I want Final Destination.
You're still pointing to your picture right there.
I know. I can't ever get my damn hands right. But that's what I want. You were mentioning, stuff like Hereditary and all that. I don't want that crap. I really don't. I like it, but I don't want that crap. I want Final Destination. I want Chucky.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I like stuff that some people don't like. I like Truth or Dare, the Blumhouse one.
Oh God.
I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Oh my God.
I don't know. That's just, what it was like, you know.
My God, that's like saying you like Fantasy Island, made by the same people. Oh my God, that was god awful.
I didn't like that one. I thought it was
Those
kinda
guys are
stupid.
some of the worst filmmakers out there, and I've seen both of those films, and I can say that. And I gave Truth or Dare two
I
tries,
I like
and I
Cry Wolf, which that guy did, which that producer, that director did, or
I
whatever.
like Cry Wolf. I like Cry
Cry
Wolf.
Wolf.
I thought
If
that
he
was
had
good.
done stuff like that some more, you know, he would be even better. I didn't like Fantasy Island, but I liked fucking
Oh my
I like
God.
Truth or Dare. I don't know. I like the idea of a Truth or Dare game that you have to continue playing. You have to pass it on to the
With their
next person.
stupid, pathetic CGI
That
smiles.
stuff
So
was
dumb.
not my favorite, but I overlook that stuff
You
because
know,
I'm like
just let Tim Ritter do it. Just let Tim Ritter do it.
uh
Just leave the Truth or Dare movies to him.
yes,
You
there's
know,
the critical madness. All right, let him handle that, I guess. But it was, I mean, whatever. Um, nobody's ever made a horror film out of Spin the Bottle.
my God, you're brilliant.
I know. I'm always thinking.
You're a
Always got these
beautiful
ideas.
man.
Got these ideas in my head.
You got
You
these
know,
ideas.
watch
Ow,
watch. All of a
ow.
sudden, Blumhouse will come up with a Spin the Bottle movie.
You
You
should
know
find out if there's a copyright on Spin the Bottle. Maybe it's like Hasbro or something. Or
what? No, nobody can copyright. It's a game. Everybody. It would be like a card game or something, and somebody has the rights to a card game. No.
Blackjack.
Yeah, like 21. You know, oh, you can't do 21 because so and so owns it. You know, like no.
You never know. You never know. Spin the Bottle could be funny. You know, it lands on you, and then you're gonna die.
That would be interesting. You know, you'd have to do something with spin the bottle, like make it, call it something else, the bottle, you know. But anyway, yeah. Or spin the something, you know, spin the knife. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, the I mean, when you look at what's hot right now, and that might be also another thing of like, I was surprised that, you know, when I did see before we did all this that the Final Destination 6 was still in the works and stuff, it started making me think like people haven't been talking about Final Destination for so long other than us and people who are reviewing this stuff, you know. But I don't really hear about people go, "Oh my God, that reminds me like Final Destination," you know.
But that's why I'm surprised, especially with Scream. Why not? Why not make another Final Destination? Why not make another Joyride? Why not make a good, wrong turn, like a traditional one, not like the new one that came out? You know, why not just bring all this shit back and sell it to Netflix or HBO or Hulu or
A
whatever
Final
it is?
Destination TV show would be pretty cool. I think, you know.
Well, yeah, because then you would just have one episode where each person gets killed.
Right. So it'd be
So
like,
you make it like 7 or 8 episodes,
yeah,
and
make
each
it
one
about 8
has.
episodes, and then 7 of the people died, and maybe there's like, you know, a couple left or something, and so there's more than the normal thing. But I mean, that would be cool. Um, and that seems to be the thing too. Horror's going to TV now. You know, kind of everything's going to TV. So you got like this Screen TV show that I didn't really dig. I just wasn't into it.
It didn't take off. I liked it, but it didn't take off.
Well, my
Like,
biggest problem was it wasn't Scream. It was the first season wasn't Scream. It wasn't even set in the same
no,
same town. It was just like a
well, it
whole
was 2 seasons and 1 movie, and they did have Wes Craven's blessing, from what I understood, but because he said it was okay to use the different mask,
right.
and it just
Then
didn't.
there was another thing too. Like, why have a different mask? I mean, Ghostface is Scream.
Well,
You know?
and then they did the 1 season, I think, which people call, and I'm sorry, I don't like calling it this, but this is what they call it, the Black Scream,
Right.
because it's primarily, set with an urban cast. And then they did bring back the mask, but I think that was only 1 season, and that I thought
Right.
was good too. But then look at I Know What You Did Last Summer. That like bombed beyond belief.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess some shows and movies it's harder to do as a television show, or like some movies, some franchises. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I mean, you didn't see it, right? You told me you haven't seen it yet.
No, I was going to, but wasn't on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
see, I don't get Prime. So
I have Prime. I gotta check it out at some point and let you know if it's any good. If that's actually,
I've just heard really, really bad things about it. So
the Chucky series. The Chucky is.
oh my god, the trailer for season 2 looks amazing.
Yeah. So
I love one. Like I mentioned to Jeffrey, I think that the Final Destination films, I don't think there's a bad one in it. Some are better than others. I don't think there's a bad film in it. Chucky is the same thing. I love every Chucky. I love season 1 of Chucky. And that trailer with Chucky now being at a Catholic school, killing priests and nuns. Oh my God. That looks amazing.
I will say my least favorite Chucky, movie or whatever was the remake.
I hated the remake. I don't count the remake.
So you don't count the remake because it is it's like kind of like, remember the Pet Sematary remake? It just sort of was like they had the rights and they were trying to do it before, because there's that stupid there's a stupid copyright law that's out there that okay, so as a writer, I'm like, oh well, this is kind of interesting, but like there's that copyright law that says after 35 years, something like that, whatever it is, I think it's 30 years, that it reverts back to the original writer, right? That's why Victor Miller is screwing everybody over, with the rights to Friday the 13th, which we've discussed this, and he needs to just
my feelings about it.
Yeah, he needs to just give it back to. And I've interviewed Victor before all this stuff happened, and I understood this dude is not into horror, and he's not into. He didn't like
money.
Yeah,
dicking over the fans.
Yeah. So he should, definitely give the rights over, because that's another thing we need. We need Friday the 13th to come back. I'm sick and tired of these fucking fan films. Like, stop making these stupid fan films. Like, get the rights back, make a real movie. Like, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
that sounds like a personal thing. For
it
me.
could be.
Yeah. And then there's I mean, what else is there? There's like Prey, the new Predator movie, which we've discussed a little bit about before, but like that's what people are into these days, and Final Destination is, something that I can't wait for them to bring back, and continue. Like, I hope they do like, one every 2 or 3 years or whatever, and I like how they're all sort of connected in some way or another. Like, sometimes they mention the ones. This is a prequel, so it sets up at the end of the movie. They're on the plane, flight 180. I mean, how freaking awesome is that?
I was almost stupid, and I wanted to put in the DVD for the first movie to see if I could see them sitting in the background.
Did you do that?
I didn't, but I'm like, no, they're not going to be there, because this was made like years later, so there'd be no way there's just sitting in the background. But I wanted to see like who technically maybe might be in those seats, but I didn't look. Like, would it be 2 women? Maybe it's 2 guys. Maybe it's a guy and a girl. I mean, who would really be in those seats in the first film?
I don't know if we ever really see much of that, that side or whatever either, because most of the time it's on the other sides that most of the people are on that one aisle. And maybe they did that on purpose, that maybe, well, no, because they never planned that they would make a prequel that would, utilize
no. They didn't even know if Final Destination was going to be a hit or not.
Right. So they had no idea, but it is cool. Like Jeffrey says, this movie was fan service, as opposed to the fourth one, which I think they all loved, the movies and stuff, but this was definitely fan service. This was definitely writers who were like, hey, let's make a movie for the fans, and they did it, and I I totally agree. What was your favorite death in this one?
I'm looking at your picture. It's got to be the gymnastics one.
That's what I was thinking, but I was like, was there any? I was actually thinking, was there anything else?
Because it's just so brutal, but I think irony wise, I think the black guy getting the engine on, landing on him is pretty funny. So that might be like my second favorite, just because like, what are the chances of him being at this bar and there he is looking at the pictures of the guy who was a total dick to him and finding out about his head about to explode and and then this engine just falls on top of him, So I like that one a lot too. I think just more of the irony of it. But I think, yeah, that is because I don't think people expected the gymnastics one to be so brutal, because you're seeing her spine. If you look close, you could see her spine like ripping out of her back.
Oh man, I made a joke to Jackie that it looked like The Grudge, like the contortionist kind of thing. It was brutal. I agree. I also really like the ending, where where remember, like in the first movie we sort of see the stuff that happens or whatever and stuff in the plane, and then I just love the fact that those guys are coming off the plane, they're all fighting and they're all coming off the plane, and he like turns to the lady on the aisle and is like, why are those guys leaving? And she's like, oh, the guy said he had some kind of vision, about the, right? And he was like, oh shit.
Yeah, his eyes just
like oh god, no. And they, I would have said, fuck them, I'm joining them, I'm leaving, like me and my girlfriend, we're getting off right now, because
well, and it's his fault that she dies,
right?
She gets cut in half by the wing. If she didn't go with him, she'd be fine, because she never died anyways.
Maybe, but remember, it comes to that idea at the end of was it part 3 or part 4? But it was like the idea of like, it was part 4 where like they were like looking at each other at the cafe, right? The death by caffeine. They're all looking at each other and like, wait, maybe this was our purpose. This is the way we're supposed to die all along, right here, right? And maybe that was where those two were supposed to die. So maybe she was always supposed to die on that plane. That's why they never got the vision.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. But it's funny because they get the vision, and once again, we don't have a clear idea of who's sending these visions, and we never will, which
I don't think that there's an answer to it. I think this is kind of David Lynchian, where, David Lynch, when you ask David Lynch, really, what does Mulholland Drive mean? And he goes, well, I know what it means, but, you have to figure it out, when it's more like David Lynch doesn't know what it means. And that's what, I think with these, I don't think, that's why I was saying to Jeffrey, like, maybe it's black and white. Maybe we're putting too much thought into it, that it's just that simple, that the guy has the vision, he gets off the plane blows up, death gets pissed and kills everybody. That's all it is. There's nothing more behind it. So there is no devil.
I can't buy that.
God,
I can't buy that. I can't buy that somebody would just get a vision, and that there's nothing more.
I mean, people do. Allegedly, deja vu and stuff like that. I mean,
sort of, but it's never to the excess that this,
no.
Where people see how everybody's going to die. It's that's a psychic thing. That's a psychic ability to be able to see the future. And so that would mean that everybody just automatically gets some kind of psychic ability randomly, and I don't buy that. No, I think that there's some kind of force that's telling us. Now, you're right. You mentioned earlier with Jeffrey that if this is ever explained, it's sort of like midichlorians, then we're going to look at it and go, oh, that's the answer, because it's not the answer we have in our head,
No, because it's better to not explain. I never want to know what really made those zombies come to life in Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
We think it's the Venus probe. We think it's the radiation. Leave it at that. That is fine. I don't need any more. And I don't want to know really about, I don't want to know, about Tony Todd. I don't want to know more on him. I think it's fine the way it is. Just don't.
Well, you like the idea that he pops up and tells these things, like
Yeah, maybe he's connected, he's attached in it. Maybe this happened to him.
I like that idea that originally that he was a person who had those visions. As Jeffrey pointed out later, that that was changed anyway. All of that was changed, so it's not the same,
Yeah, I think now it's too late. Like
Yeah.
there's too many movies. I mean, he'd have to bring it up in like at least by part 3 at least.
Right.
Or part 2, that when they go to visit him in part 2, that he would have to say, I was a victim, then he would tell us all that. But then once again, that would ruin it for me. So
Yeah, because then the answer, and it's like, do you want to see the wizard behind the curtain? Do you want to see that? Or would you prefer the magic of what's going on? Right? Like, do you know what I mean? Which one would you rather have? Would you rather know the answers, or would you rather live the life of like, oh my God, this is way crazy, So I agree. It's just sort of those things. Like, I like bringing that up. I like bringing up the idea. I think it's Satan, and what is it?
so then that would make Satan better than God.
No, that would make him a prankster. Like, he fucked with.
No, because he's trying to help the person.
Well, also, if you really go back to look at and Supernatural brings this up once again. I'm going to bring the Supernatural up, but Supernatural brings up the idea that Satan is a terrible person, right? A terrible being, but but he was the only reason he's a terrible being or whatever is because he disagreed with God, right?
We're only hearing one side of it,
right? Well, and yeah, whatever. You got to watch Supernatural sometime. I think you
well, I'm going off of the Bible, and we are only hearing one side. And as far as we know, Satan or devil, whatever you want to call him, might be a pretty cool dude. And he, maybe hell's a pretty cool place to hang out. Maybe he's got parties all day and stuff like that. So, and I mean, Satan didn't flood the entire planet and do mass genocide and then have a family perform incest to repopulate it.
Hey, he reformed in the next generation, the New Testament. He sort of became a more nicer, more tolerating,
Yeah, because he had a son, and then he became a deadbeat dad who didn't come back for 34 years, and then said, hey, guess what, Junior? You're going to get crucified for everybody's sins.
So, well, whatever. Anyway.
So I would say, if you think it's Satan, to me, it's Satan helping. Right. He might be screwing them over, but he's helping them to say, this is what's going to happen to you. Get off the plane. And then God is then telling Death, damn, that's Satan. Okay, Death, now you got to go take care of these people, because in my book here, in my plan, they're all dead.
Right. Because like the only reason I said Satan, and the only reason I think that like it was the Lucifer that's doing all of this stuff, is because, if you think about death, right? Death isn't, Satan doesn't control death, right? Lucifer doesn't control death. God controls who's going to die, who's going to live and die, right? Or whatever. That's the idea, right? And so there's got to be another force that goes against God, right? To stop them. So maybe he would just say, this stuff to cause problems, with God's plan, like I said, he's a trickster,
Well, I still go back to the whole thing of the guy mentioning in the first film. Why would God would not take down this plane? Because there's a mentally handicapped person and a baby. And so since God did blow up the plane, that means God's a pretty bad guy.
Well,
And at least Lucifer tried to save some of the people.
well, here's my thing, and this might go a little deeper than the movie itself or anything, but my thing is that okay, so I'm gonna use this as an example, and hope I don't get the people whose family this is a part of, but I had a friend of mine who died in a car crash, right? And she was young. She was only 24, I think, at the time. And she died, and her boyfriend at the time, or fiance, whatever he was at the time, lived, right? In the car crash. And it was just, she was tired. She driving home, she's just swerved off a bridge and died, right? Died on impact, I think.
Oh, wow.
And it was sad. It's terribly sad. She left her, departing, she left her son and her daughter. She had a son and a daughter. One was basically a baby, one was a little older, right? Those two are going to move on and be with are moved on and be with the grandparents, right? My thing is that death, that was an accident, right? But that was maybe part of the plan for the universe of those people who are going to live, right? So
it wasn't an accident.
So it wasn't an accident. It was an accident in the world of, like, we look at it, right? But maybe that was a plan for the future. Right?
And this is where the whole thing with God is messed up, is just like in the first film of taking a baby or a handicapped person,
right?
Is that it's already preordained that baby at that age will die on that plane.
That happens all the time, right?
Right. So if you're a religious person, and somebody actually says, if they're like at a funeral and says, well, it's what God wanted, your baby is now with God, you shouldn't be mad, because God only gave that baby 2 years to live, or 1 year to live, or whatever it is, which is pretty messed up.
Well, who knows? And you don't know, I don't know, none of us really know what happens to us after we're gone. Now, you as I think you're an atheist, right? If I'm correct. You probably think we're just dead. Like, we're just,
you just die.
You just die. There's just blackness. It's just like as if we were, like nothing, like sleep. You sleep, and when you're asleep, you don't know.
If you die in your sleep, you'll continue to go on for as long as your brain functions, right? And then that's it. It's done.
So you don't think that they go to another place. However, maybe they do. Right? My idea and my Christian belief is that we go on to another place, heaven, whatever you want to call it. We go to the other side, as I keep hearing it from that celebrity psychic guy, Tyler, or whatever. You don't watch that show or hear about that or whatever. Anyway, he talks about, he can, when he communicates with people, he communicates with somebody.
Are you being serious that you believe a psychic?
Yeah.
They're fake. They're absolutely fake. There's no one is a psychic. They're not real. They're con men or con women.
Maybe they are, maybe they're not.
They are. They are
fine.
They're liars. They feed off of people's grief. Hey. They go off of the oldest trick in the book, which is that they read people.
Okay. And they probably do research about the people they do, whatever. I don't care. I just, what I want to, if I want to believe that, it's my choice, and it's my opinion. It might be wrong in your opinion, but it's just like, I believe in God, and you're like, God is not real. How do you believe in, that? I mean, it's the same thing, you know? I believe it because I think it'd be kind of cool. It'd be cool if he's right. I don't know. I have never had an experience with those, with the psychic yet, or a medium,
Well,
but
and neither
maybe
has the psychic.
not yet. But maybe he
Well,
knows
not yet. Not ever.
maybe he knows I'm going to talk to him. You know.
If I walked into a psychic and I just came into my regular clothes and they went, "Welcome, John. I've been expecting you." Then I might think something else. Either I look like a John, or she's a good guesser with names. But I might think like, "Oh wow, okay." She, actually be better if hello, John Ward. I was expecting you.
Right.
But
And you weren't like expecting, like you weren't signed up. You didn't have any kind of,
just walked in off the street. Yeah.
just walked in off the street. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they say they don't work that way, I guess, or whatever. And that's just a cheap way to say whatever.
No,
But
because they look at your clothes, they look at your face, they look at your body, language, they look at whatever it is.
Mhm.
That's why these guys, these friggin' preachers that are total hacks. I'm there's somebody in the room with a problem. Bill, anybody here named Bill? I'm Bill. You just pick a name that everybody has. And of course, one person in the audience is going to say that that's their name.
Yeah, it's like that movie Leap of Faith,
It's
with Steve Martin.
Steve Martin. Yeah, it's a good movie.
Great
Very
movie.
underrated.
But it's sort of like that because he's like, just conning everybody. However, maybe they're not cons. I don't know. I have fun with it. I like watching this shit. I like watching the Long Island Medium. I'm sorry.
No, you can
fun.
have fun watching it. I enjoy watching that stuff too, but I know it's fake.
I don't know because I like
look a friend of mine when he was living in New Jersey. I'm sorry, not New Jersey. He was I'm blanking. Well, he's by New Jersey, but he worked on a TV show called The Psychic Soccer Mom. They only did like one episode because it never got picked up. And by day she was a soccer mom. By night she was a psychic.
By night,
so
like all of a sudden at night she was just like psychic.
Well, because she had to be a mom by day, and then she would go do her psychic stuff at night. So as an example, this is what my friend told me, is they would have her go to a well, and they would say, "Timmy fell down the well. We don't know if Timmy's alive or not. Can you help us?" Timmy is alive. Awesome. Cut. Take 2. Now tell me Timmy's dead. Action. Timmy is dead. They did it both ways on everything because some of these things were real case, like whatever they shot was like a real case. And so she would have to do it both ways so she wouldn't be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fraud. That's the grift. They're totally fake.
Look, might be. I don't know. But
might be, my friend, is.
I don't know. I can't say because I haven't seen any of that stuff. So
anyway, we've been going on for almost 2 hours.
I know, we're almost done. So we're gonna wrap this up. What do we normally do? We mentioned our favorite. What was your least favorite death in this?
How did the friend die? The one that's behind you there, the one that like was shooting in the, probably him, probably our lead's friend, and he just got the chicken rotisserie through him.
Oh yeah.
Interesting how they just left the restaurant and there's like 2 dead bodies in there. Cut to 2 weeks later and they're getting ready for a flight. Like, was there no police investigation? Would he be charged for murder?
Probably, especially when one of them was an agent, that died. It was the agent, the black guy, right? The black agent that died in the restaurant as well. So like, wouldn't that be under investigation? Like, why?
You guys ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
type of
But
thing.
apparently
So
they
yeah,
did.
probably his. Yeah, probably just because the rotisserie thing wasn't very.
So
It's
I kept calling him low rent Tom Cruise because he did the Tom Cruise impersonations and stuff. The more I watched it, I was like, damn, he does look like Tom Cruise. The Miles Fisher guy or whatever I forgot what his character's name was. Peter. It was Peter or something like that.
Peter. Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah. He got mad because his girlfriend died in the gymnastics thing, and he so he was really like upset, but David Ketchner's probably like my least favorite because I that was the older guy with the bald head and everything. If I remember correctly, he had sort of a boring death.
Yeah. They were saying, who dies? Who's next? Who's next? And then the giant wrench.
Yeah. So that was it, and I was just like, yeah. I liked his death in the music video better, where the record sliced through his head, and he's just like there, like and falls down. Right. I thought that was more fun. I think they all acted in Final Destination, and then he was like, I didn't get a cool death like everybody else. Can you guys make sure I have one on this music video?
Right.
Because he was supposed to play, I guess, the belting part, in the Saved by the Bell thing. Anyway, yeah, so that was my least favorite. Especially since I really liked the actor, I was kind of hoping he had a better death. I guess we're down to our review of it, like our star
rating. Yeah.
So it's hard for me to think about this. Like, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I really liked it. Like,
I'm gonna do the same.
Yeah, I really dug it, and like I said, I liked it better than part 4. I think I even liked it better than part 3. Now that I think about it,
Yeah, I'm gonna go 4 with it. I could possibly even go 4.5, just because I think it's a movie. But I'm gonna stick with 4.
Yeah, so 4 stars. I think that's fair. I obviously like 1 and 2 a little bit better, but and I think I'm tied with that on the 4-star rating, but yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really good, and just everything was fun about this movie. So all right, well, thank you. We talked a lot about this movie, and we talked a lot about the franchise, because this is the end of our Final Destination.
End.
Yes. Are you gonna start singing The Doors for me?
My only friend. The end.
All right.
This is the end.
Well, we're not doing Apocalypse Now next. However, we are we are doing the Butterfly Effect next.
I'm excited for those because
I've seen the first one, have not seen the second or third. So I think there's a third, right?
There is a third.
Yes.
The third one, I think, could have been made into a TV series with what they do with it.
Did the second one even have Adrian? Wasn't Adrian? Ashton back?
No.
Okay.
No. And we'll talk more, because I did some research a while back on like part 2. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to those. So it should be interesting.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you guys for checking us out. What was your favorite Final Destination sequel? What was your favorite? I guess, to look back at it, my favorite death of all of them is still gonna be the log truck scene, or whatever.
That's pretty brutal. Yeah, especially with I'm really got a thing with fire. So it's especially with the guy just burning in the car, and then he gets creamed. I mean, he gets double whacked.
Which one?
In part 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the guy that gets the thing through his eye, but he's just burning in the car going, "Help me, somebody help me." And it's like nobody could do anything. And then behind him, you just see the big ring come and smash into him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, he couldn't just die in fire. You also had to have him explode.
Yep. My other favorite one was I mean, I thought you were gonna say like the guy on fire, the racist guy on fire.
He's
You know.
one of my favorites. He really is. I mean, it's I'm just
It was
I
up there for me too.
yeah, and it's just because he's a racist. I mean, that's it. Like, I feel sorry for the two girls who got burnt up and electrocuted in the tanning beds because
That's what I was
they
thinking too. Like
yeah, they were
I
nice. They tried to help her, but
they
in
wanted
their
her
own
to come
way.
with them, and maybe if she
Yeah,
came with them, none of that stuff would have happened.
yeah.
You know, I never thought
So she
about
kind of
that.
caused their death in a way.
In a way, she did.
Yeah,
You know, and didn't she like try calling them too? Like maybe that
yeah. But they were
caused.
already
Yeah, they're already dying.
yeah.
Oh, well, I miss them because I love Shalon Simmons, and you like the other girl.
I like the brunette. Yes, from
Yes.
Black Christmas.
So there you go. We've got our dates.
Yes,
You got the
even though
brunette,
they're
and
all toasty now, but that's
they're
okay.
all married and everything in real life.
Oh, toasty and married. Okay,
All right, we're done. We're done
we're
with this
done.
series. All right. So join
5
us,
films.
and so next one we only have 3 films, so that's a little easier to handle. But that'll wrap up August with that, and then we're going on to whatever is next in September.
Something next, yeah.
Yeah, we don't even have it figured out yet. So,
True.
but thank you guys for checking us out. Join us next week for a brand new episode. Bye.
Bye.